So first of all, why it is such a difficult problem? I would just relate to this slide from Freelancing in America's 2017 survey. It was now replaced by Freelance Forward, done only by Upwork. This is the previous survey that was done in cooperation with the Freelancers Union. But this is a striking question. You know, when they asked full-time freelancers a simple question like whether they understand their finances, right? Only 41% replied they do, which is like totally crazy. I mean, like, how can you be a business person without having control over your finances? This is dangerous, and it's it's only proves how difficult topic it is. You know, like I think it has mainly two reasons why the state is so terrible. I think one of them is that many people come from professions or have expertise that is other than managerial or economic background. Like, so they don't have like tight relation to doing this. And the other reason I see when I discuss or consult freelancers all around Europe is that I often see that people are excellent in the professions. They are great experts, but they tend to be more, you know, like loose on the entrepreneurial or the business side of their freelancing. So they are great experts, but they are less, strict and you know, focused on the business side of things. And the result is that they often have like very intuitive approach to managing their own finances. Why it is a problem? Uh, I think the problem is in a nutshell that it's actually pretty easy to start to be a freelancer. I mean, you may have these like small bets, like side jobs, for example, and it's pretty easy to get started, and you don't have to be concerned too much about like managing your capital because it's pretty easy. But it gets more complicated and more complex over the time when you manage more clients, when you are taking more risks, when you are taking bigger assignments for longer term. And over the long term, there will definitely come situations where uh, you may have difficulties, you know, to cover all the situations with the capital you have presently at hand. So I would say that this is a risk that is like growing over long term if it is neglected. So if I go back to the topic of financial self-management, I think we always need to start from a bit more broader and general topic of mapping and preventing risks. So I wouldn't go really deep into this. I just want to say that it's really important for us as freelancers, as entrepreneurs, to be aware that we have some risks that we can think of and that we can prevent them, and it should be a part of a like a long-term strategy. So thinking where we have these like weak spots and fixing them before the risks actually occur or take over, right? So like I have this uh, screen with some examples, but this is only like a small portion of what can happen, right? So you have all kinds of bad situations, and I'm just trying to say here that there's like there's really a bright side of looking at bad situations, and it is inherently in the mapping and preventing risks. We can tackle these problems beforehand, and that's great because if you just tackle one risk or prevent one risk, it doesn't make a big difference. But if you do this as an ongoing basis, I don't know, for 2 or 3 years, your business would be much more resilient against general risks uh, than it was where you started. Uh, when you just second look or second guess this problem, you would actually find out that uh, having a strong financial reserve is a solution to many risks. I mean, you have if you have like I don't know you have a car crash, or your computer is stolen or whatever, or you need to cover some extra costs that were totally unexpected. And if you have a financial reserve, strong financial reserve, it's much more easier than if you are just running on money that you just earned yesterday, right? So basically, like, managing risks often comes down to having like a strong financial discipline and managing your finances well. Uh, when I was debating this problem, like over many years with freelancers from many professions, I found out that for most people, it's actually a bit scary topic, because it involves some like controls, like some restrictions or our behavior a bit. So people get slightly scared that it's too complex and that it would somehow, limit their freedom and limit their comfort as persons and as business persons. So I usually, like, learning this from practice, I usually recommend to freelancers, like, tackling this problem like by doing smaller steps, by getting more comfortable, gradually controlling a bigger and bigger portion of your financial flow. And in that way, people usually don't get the spreadsheet poisoning, and it's pretty much safe. So I would just like to introduce like 5 levels I usually recommend working on, starting from something that is really basic. It may be too basic for you, but for many freelancers, it's still a step ahead. So the first would be just keeping the records, like keeping the monthly revenues and having these like overview, how are you doing over the years, and how much have you been earning in that particular month. uh, this is already a prevention of a problem that is common with freelancers, that because we have these incomes that fluctuate all the time, like if you are an employee, you have more or less stable salary and you live accordingly to what you can afford, right? But if you are a freelancer, like, there are these swings, like this is just a fictional graph, but the swings we see here are quite common. So we have like, you are invoicing, I don't know, something here, and then double or triple of that in another month, and then it goes down. It may be a trend, like, so you may start to get concerned, like how am I, where is it going, right? And having these records is basically telling you how you were doing in the same period in the last year before that, and 2 years before that. So you have this like top down view, like what is a general trend in your business in terms of income. And this is already a small prevention against some problems with freelancers, that we have these swings of income and swings of mood and emotions tangled around it, right? So we may even do some moving sum, and then the trend this business has is much clearer. So this is only like a smoothing out the curve, but still this is really basics and only involves, I don't know, 10 minutes a month, just filling a spreadsheet, and that's it. So it's not really time demanding. The second level, and what I just have to know that this is all described in detail in my book, The Freelance Way. So if you just want to dive into it, it's better to go there. I'm just doing some quick intro here. So the second problem that freelancers face with finances is that they have these, like big swings that are given because the spending is not spread evenly across the whole year. In some parts of the year, we are just paying taxes or paying some social or health insurance, and these may be some like huge amounts of money. And if people don't plan for it, if they plan for their taxes, like, I don't know, several months in advance, they may have some problem paying them. So I often see cases of even like high earning professionals who uh, just spend everything they earn, and when the time comes for paying the taxes, they go to bank to have some shorter loan, you know. So basically the second level is to have some kind of financial overview with what your assets are on one side, and then you just split the cake into like things that you want to, yeah, like put apart, you know, like, so you know that you have, I don't know, $42,000 here as total assets, but to prevent spending them, you just, you know, make some notes that you have this financial reserve, that you are saving for tax and insurance balance payments, for whatever you want, you know. So this is not a strict accounting table. This is a table you are doing just for yourself to prevent like spending the assets you have, and to allocate finances to your reserve and to some future costs that you are preparing for. So when the costs come around, I mean, I don't know, you would be paying for taxes, you just delete this row and just deduce the amount here, and the result is basically still the same. So you don't have a financial swing here, but you just, you know, you just paid what you were due to pay, and the result is basically the same, you know, like the current balance is remains. So this would be a second step. In this step, you are already preventing a serious problem that I have just described. That people, you know, just uh, don't plan for these extra situations, and this will allow you to do so. The problem with this simple overview is basically there are two problems with this. First of all, it wouldn't allow you to plan for the whole debt you may have. I don't know, for your mortgage or some bigger amount you owe to someone, and it will also not tell you where are you losing money. So if you find yourself in a situation where you just look at your accounting or whatever at your income, and you are just thinking, well, where the hell did all the money go, and you don't know the answer. So that's when the third level comes in a one way or another, and that would be watching your cash flow. So it would be a cash flow analysis. In this level, you would probably start looking not only on your income, which is pretty simple, like to analyze, because a normal freelancer would issue, I don't know, several invoices a month, perhaps. It's not a big amount of data, right? But when it comes to spending, these may be like dozens of small payments for all sorts of business costs. But these may also be some costs that are totally personal, or they are like related to your family, you know. Like usually it makes sense for a freelancer to have this control over one's own cash flow on a both business and personal level. There are several reasons for that. First of all, some costs are, you know, split in somewhere in between, in a gray zone. Many people, I don't know, have their car for business purposes, but they also use it for some personal use. This may also go with a personal study you may have at home, and paying your phone, whatever, travel costs, and other things. So this is one reason, and the second reason would be that these are basically two areas that are like overlapping each other. And if you are, for example, spend too much in your personal life, you have to constrain yourself in a business spending, right? You usually have some budget for everything, and freelancers usually don't divide strictly their budgeting for family and personal needs and business, right? Like these, when you are spending in one area, you just save in another. It makes sense. So when you are trying to find out where you are spending too much or how much you are actually earning after you deduce your costs and spending from your income. You actually need to control the whole thing, you know. Like, there are exceptions. For example, I have clients who are very frugal, and they don't spend almost anything at all. They live in their own house. They have like really small spending in their personal life. But this is, well, I would say it's not common. So, but there are exceptions to that. And in that case, of course, you just control business finances, and that's it. But still, this level was in the past, it was pretty complicated because there were no apps to do that. And people were, you know, I don't know, collecting bills, and they were analyzing them on a monthly basis, you know, just going over them with a calculator. And it took an hour or two basically to get a grasp, where are you spending, how much, and for what. Now it's much easier because you have these cash flow apps like Toshal or a Good Budget or MoneyWiz, Spendy, iFinance, Wallet. I personally use Revolut because I want to control my usual daily spending, basically. And that's quite enough, because like with the Revolut, everything you pay with the card is basically recorded and divided into categories. So you have a quite a good overview, but it needs to be connected with another system that I will describe later. So basically, when you start watching your cash flow, you suddenly and analyze it, you suddenly find out that there are areas where you spend much more than you expected. So, for example, I have this thing for, I don't know, for books or for restaurants. And when I started analyzing my cash flow, I found, wow, I really spend a lot of money for books or for going to dine out, for example. And by only having this feedback, you already start, correcting your like spending behavior, and it actually enables you to save quite a lot in a smart way. Because if we don't have this information, like this complex overview, we usually uh, misevaluate how big in spending is this or that area. So this will give you like a realistic picture, and not only that, you will find out what's your net income like after you deduce the costs. And I have to say that these first three levels are quite enough for most freelancers. So even this is pretty like more complicated, because you have to enter some kind of data in an app. So it takes some time, and it's really fast. But anyway, it's still something that you have to do. With most cases, I just recommend doing it for several months, do the correction, and then just you can forget it. Like, you change your behavior, and you may, like focus your attention on different problems. But anyway, there is also level 4 and level 5. Financial plan, it's also described in detail in my book, is something like this financial overview, but like projected long term. So you have these total costs. So you are planning your costs for each month. So you know what your costs will be. And then you also project your revenues, your income. This is, of course, much more difficult because, as I said, like we have these financial swings. And as freelancers, it's pretty difficult to say like what will be my income, I don't know, in 3 months time, right? This is like, this would be a complicated problem, and it's unpredictable to that level that in my opinion, it doesn't make sense to have only one projection. Usually with financial plans that I do for myself or for my clients, we have three scenarios. One is pessimistic, one is realistic, and one is like optimistic. If the business go really well, like exceeding our expectations. Uh, uh, it's good to know that actually to create such a financial plan, you actually need the previous levels, right? Uh, you need your revenues recorded so that you know that what is a general trend, what can you expect, in terms of income from a given season or that part of the year or that month, for example, because there are swings, right? There are seasonal swings, there are like market swings, and there are crises, there are booms. So you may plan for that using these scenarios that I've described. And to plan your expenses or record your expenses for the future, you also need to have some kind of overview. So if you were like monitoring your cash flow for a while, you already know how much approximately you spend for what, and you are also aware that you have recorded all, that nothing is missing. And so you would be able to fill this table, I don't know, 1 or 2 years in advance. And the great thing about this is actually that if you just subtract these costs from the given scenario, either pessimistic, realistic, optimistic, you find out what's your monthly cash flow for that given month in a given scenario, right? So for each scenario, you have this result. Like if, for example, in May, you would have a cost of 3,700, then the pessimistic scenario would put you in minus. So you would be losing some money, some small money, but the realistic and optimistic scenario you would have some profit, right? And the great thing about this financial plan, and why is it important to have it, especially if you are managing some debt, is that you may have this cumulative cash flow. So if you just sum up this month, you would know that if, for example, the realistic scenario would be running according to your cost expectations and income expectations, in February, you would be plus $19,000 in this particular scenario. If it would be pessimistic, you would be plus, I don't know, 5,000. If it would be optimistic, you would be plus 38,000. So it's pretty easy to project your financial future in several scenarios using this simple spreadsheet. That's a great thing. What's also great about it is that whenever you would be doing some important financial decision, for example, whether to take on a loan on a mortgage, or just renting a more expensive office, you may just add an extra row in this plan, in this table, and you will immediately see how it would influence your financial health over longer periods of time. So you may find out that this cost is like negligible, that it's okay, you can pretty much afford to pay it. Or you may also find out that, for example, in your pessimistic scenario, this cost would put you in a red zone, and so you should perhaps think twice before committing to an extra loan or a mortgage or whatever. So this is great. The financial plan like this is actually great for people who either manage some debt, they are paying mortgage, or they have some like longer commitments they have to stand up to, or for people who have like big responsibility for their family, because they are, for example, primary earners in their family. So if they are bearing this responsibility, it's actually sensible to be planning in this fashion. It's really fast. It's not a rocket science, So it takes only, I don't know, 5 to 15 minutes a week, but it would enable you to see a financial trouble several months or sometimes even a year in advance. So you would have lots of time to prepare. You may cut some costs, and you may just, put this spreadsheet in a much better shape. So this would be the fourth level. And then the final step, this is more of a PhD. It would be a topic for a wholly new talk, but just to wrap it up, the ultimate level is usually like making some investment, because if you are managing your finances well, if you are earning well, and if you are saving money thanks to your improved control over your cash flow, you will probably encounter much more pleasant problem, like where to put your savings or money in order to not spend it now, to protect it against inflation or against some other risk, or even multiply it. And if you just start looking to it, this is like a whole new level. It's very complex usually, because you probably wouldn't want to be dependent on people who, for example, live from like you paying some fees for investment, or they have some like different different goals than you have when making the investment, for example. So usually it's for us entrepreneurs, business persons, is usually great to be investing in an area that we actually understand. So it means some studying, it means some practice, it means like making some mistakes in the beginning. But over the long term, it's much better if you are investing somewhere where you understand the subject, understand the risk, and when you are not, totally dependent on an advisor or some salesman in a bank or in a financial institution, because these people may have slightly different motivations than you have. I'm just not saying anything bad about them. I just say that they may be motivated by different incentives than you are as an investor, and you should be aware of it in order to make wise and good long-term decisions. There are two basics. As for recommendations, what to read. Well, one basic I've put it here. It's from John Malongo, The Art of Investing, from Great Courses. This is an audio course. I've listened to a number of these introductory books just to be able to give a recommendation to beginners, and I think this one is so far probably the best I've found. It's balanced. It's well explained. It's complex as well, and it's great quality as most courses from Great Courses. And the advanced thing, this is just to wrap it up. Many people are aware that Warren Buffett is, of course, great investor, and but he didn't write a book, right? Like, he's busy doing his business. But there is actually something he wrote, and most people don't know about it. And these are the letters to shareholders of his company, Berkshire Hathaway. Each year, from 1965, he writes an extensive letter to shareholder when he puts his ideas about investment, about evaluating company, about judging risk, and we are going all the way back here to risk where we started. And it's actually great to learn from these letters, because they are a wealth, they are trove of knowledge about making investment, about how companies works, about how to recognize a well-managed business. This is great also for me as a consultant, and it's available for free $29 on Kindle, so it's really easy to get it and to dive into it. So that would be my introduction. I hope it was not too complex, and I'm ready for your questions. So I just stop the presentation right here.